Path, South Carolina. Today is December 23rd, 2024. It is a Monday. I hope y'all are having a great, blessed day. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah coming up to everybody out there on the plane. Sorry for the little hiccup there. I don't know. You would think at some point I would learn how to do this whole streaming thing. Sorry, my head's getting a little hot here. I'm a hothead today, y'all. I got to take that hat off. It's a little warm back here. Um, but let me just give you guys a moment to pop into the stream because when I tried to get this thought published this morning, little Lily Lou Boogaloo Scrimpinus, also known as McNoodle, had to go outside before I went. So I had to tend to that and it kind of cut me short. But here we are, man. So hopefully this stream finds y'all well. And if you don't mind, just throwing up maybe a comment or a thumb up there if you can see and hear me. So I do see the thumb. Thank you for that. I do appreciate it. And what's up, Mike? Mike. I appreciate it, man. Okay, so getting right into it, let's just do a little bit of background on the Streisand effect. What's up, Sammy? Appreciate you, man. All right, 14 of you. Looks like we made it. I do apologize for the hiccup. I don't know why I have such grief trying to set up a stream schedule. And then when I go to go live with the scheduled stream, there's just all kinds of problems and the damn thing ends up dying. So go on ahead and give us a big thumbs up in the chat there if you can hear me. And I do appreciate you guys. This one's going to be pretty short. But I'll be on here for a minute because there is always a lot to talk about, and I'll just kind of leave it open at the end if anybody has any questions or comments for me that you would like my response on. So let's see here. I guess before I get started, I did see a bunch of chats come in, and then it disappeared, and I'm not sure where they went. Okay. Live chat. That's the one I want. Okay. Crushing it again. Hey, I appreciate you, Awakened Mind. I've been trying to crush some shit the whole time, but it is hard when you've got, people pretending to be your friends that are actually apparently, like behind the scenes working against you. You know what I mean? Like, and I kind of get that. I kind of get the feeling that that's the sort of thing that was happening because, there was a while there, man, where I felt like I was crushing it. But then at some point, I just got a lot of hate from the community, and basically all of my Patreon supporters abandoned me. I think I do have like 2 or 3 Patreon supporters anymore. There's a handful of you guys, and I do love and appreciate you, but I'm really not too sure exactly what I did to piss everybody off and to lose all of my supporters. But I can imagine some things. I do know there was this big, huge kerfuffle with Just Jack. Okay, and Just Jack is a dude that does work with Karen B sometimes. They do some kind of it's like the anti-religious podcast or something like that. I've never watched one of them, but this guy, Just Jack, happens to live in Woodruff, which is right around the corner from Greenville. It's very close. Almost as close as Spartanburg, where Bob and Cammy live in their big old mansion. Lived, I should say. Shit, of course I'm getting calls. I'm gonna have to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Fuck. Yeah, if you're trying to call me, please. I mean, that's fine. I see that the number's not from a local area code, so it's probably not spam. But if you could just wait till I'm done streaming, I'm just going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Hold on. There we go. Right there. Sorry, y'all. Okay. So a couple of years ago, my wife and I were living in a hotel, which was like an extended stay, Wood Springs. And Wood Springs was run by a bunch of damn scammers or something. Like it's a whole long story. But I was paid up on my rent for the week, and this was like a couple years ago now. And I'm getting scowls from my wife in front of me. She's like, well, what does this have to do with anything? So I guess I'm gonna have to go in the other room. Is that what you're trying to say? No, I'm not going in another room. You can put your video on, just leave it low. Okay? You don't have to like turn it off or mute it. It's fine. I got headphones on. Anyway, so like at Woodtown, Wood Springs, where we had been living for a while, paying by the week. It was like over $400 a week, and then they charge you for everything. Like if you want to use the internet, high speed internet, you have to pay. It was like $20 a week. But then they kept on double billing me, and they kept on trying to charge me for my week rent a day early every week. So they were like trying to scam me. I like opened up a case against them with the a federal department. The like I'm not a snitch or a narc or anything, but I filed a complaint against Wood Springs with the Federal Trade Commission and a couple of other, like the Better Business Bureau, that aren't really feds. But I was like pissed, and I had a valid reason. These people were like threatening to throw me out on the street, even though I had already paid. And like it was all like technicalities. Like they're like, well, yeah, you paid, but then you used the high speed internet, and that cost $20 a week, so that came out of your rent, and so you owe us another, and plus late fees. It was a fucking scam, dude. Like these motherfuckers was, and I've lived in a lot of hotels here lately because flirting ain't lucrative. Let me tell you, okay. At least not for some of us. For some of us, it is. Okay, can you just turn that down a hair, baby? Please, thank you. Okay. Um, but so the general manager, and so this Wood Springs, they had gone through a revolving door of general managers. The first one was there, took his German Shepherd to work every day. Very cool. Had a great relationship with the guy, and then he got fired, and then the new one was an asshole, and they got fired, and the next one was cool, and he got fired. And so by the fifth or sixth GM that they went through for the 6 months that I was there, when we got the new one, and this woman had it out for me from day one. I'm assuming probably had to do with the FTCC complaints I had filed against the company, and they were being audited. Okay. Well, she told me I had to get the fuck out, and this was like on a Friday, and I was paid up through Monday, right? And she said it didn't matter. I had to go. They had too many problems with me, and there was a few times when I was late, but I always paid the rent and the late fees. Like you can't stay in an extended stay very long, as in like a deadbeat or something, right? You got to pay the rent. And man, I lost sleep like this. If you've never lived in a hotel, man, and you don't have anywhere else to go, brother, it is brutal, bro. It is one of the most stressful, god awful fucking things. And that's what I'm barreling towards again right now, by the way. I may have a trailer rented lineup, so we'll see. But we're getting way off the fucking topic here. But so long story short, I told the GM, the new one, basically to go fuck herself. That I'd been living there at this point. It was almost a year, and I had paid my rent and I had my receipts. And so she called the police on me, filed a trespassing warrant, and lied to the police. And they threw us on out that day, and they ran my name too, and I had a warrant, so I went to jail. Okay? And lost all my shit again. I mean, it's a fucking nightmare, dude. This was I don't know, maybe 2 years ago at this point. Again, my concept of time is not that great, but between a year and a half, 2 years ago. Maybe it was 3 years ago at this point. I don't know, man. But so anyway, so Just Jack, who lives in Woodruff, and I was in Simpsonville, so this is like 20 miles down the road. He had offered me several times, me and my wife and little Lily too, a place to stay. And I knew that they were close, and I still had his number. So like as I'm getting arrested, because I was like packing my shit into my car because the police told me that I had to go. And I said, fine, what, I'm not going to like fucking have a shootout with the police or something over this. So I packed my shit and I was putting it in the car when they got the ping back. It was in-state hold. Yeah, it was an in-state hold. It wasn't like an extradition thing. But so anyway, as I'm getting arrested, I tell Mina to call Jack because he's the one that had been offering us a room to rent for a long time. And while I'm in jail, Mina was able to move in with just Jack, and he helped out tremendously. Um, when I finally did get out of jail and get to his house, I literally got down on my knees and kissed dude's feet. That's how appreciative I was of what he had done. Okay. Now, I haven't spoken much about that experience. I have let out little tidbits, but it was a strange experience. Just Jack isn't like a shoe hat, but he thinks everybody needs to learn Hebrew because basically the English language is a deception, right? So where he's coming from is basically if you're not speaking Hebrew, you're basically fooling yourself, right? Um, so whatever your views is on that, one of the conditions of me staying in the house was that I was to observe the Sabbath and learn Hebrew. And I said, fine, I love languages, and what do you mean by observe the Sabbath? And basically what he meant was a bunch of double standards and him being holier than thou, high on his horse. So like for me to do something like light a cigarette on the Sabbath is a hellbound sin, right? Because of sparking the fire. It's a technicality because you're not even supposed to light something on the Sabbath according to this very bizarre, archaic interpretation of ancient Hebrew law, right? And so I didn't argue with him. I would walk off property to smoke a cigarette on Saturday or a joint or whatever. But I said, by the way, when you crank your car, there's a spark. So you're not driving anywhere on Saturday. I mean, I would be a bit of a smartass about it and debate that like he was way out of line, but it wasn't an issue. I mean, for the most part, we got along great. Him and the other dude that was there definitely disagreed with me on some of my views on the Old Testament. So, like, for example, in the Old Testament, it says God created this and it was good, and he created that and it was good, and God created this and saw that it was good. And so there's like a lyrical or like a prose device that is set up there. But then when it's reiterated that God created man, never on there does he say that it was good. So it's broke. There's a broken literary device there when it comes to man. So there's something there. And we're talking about semantics in the Old Testament. Also, like if you try to explain that the serpent in the Garden of Eden told Adam and Eve that if they ate of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that they would understand the difference between right and wrong, basically. And that's exactly what happened, even according to the narrative there. And the one that was stomping around the garden claiming to be God was acting more like a demon, right? The one that is depicted in history as the snake was acting more like Yeshua. Or like to depict knowledge as something evil or something to be afraid of is kind of bizarre, right? So like we have disagreements about interpretation of the Old Testament, and when I'm trying to, I'm not making a case for like the satanic philosophy or anything. What I'm making the case for is something that's coming out of my study of so-called Gnostic Christianity. And in my opinion, the so-called Gnostic Christianity is the actual shit that Yeshua was teaching people. Okay, so the version of Christianity that we have now is basically the Roman Catholic slash synagogue of Satan's version of Christianity, right? That's what we've got. That's what all the Christians, modern Christians are on about. But in terms of what like Jesus was actually teaching people and what he was like all on about, or whatever back then, I just think that there's a chasm between those two things, right? And I think that there are hints of this in the Old Testament, especially. Like, I am not a big fan of the modern iteration of the Bible, right? I believe that the Word of God is written in the hearts of the church being the Bene Elohim, the church being the people of God, right? So the Word of God is written in our hearts, not in some book that was penned by outwardly pious men, that are inwardly ravenous as wolves, right? dead men's bones, whitewashed tombs, the whole nine. The same thing that Yeshua was calling out all those years ago, right? So anyway, so Just Jack and I, as well as Curious Jay, I'm not sure. We got along great, but while we were there, I did my best to keep my opinions to myself about certain things. Okay, now maybe it was written all over my face that I really believe dude was verbally and mentally abusing his 7-year-old daughter, whom I instantly fell in love with. Just a beautiful little kid, charming, brilliant, deeper than the fucking oceans, right? Just a great little kid. Okay, and he has 2 sons as well that are 16 and 17 or something like that. Got along great with all of them. Okay, but then there were just some bizarre little things that started happening, and when I got out of jail, I had just kicked methadone. I had been on methadone for years, and I sat in jail dope sick for weeks and got out and didn't go back to the methadone clinic. I couldn't because I didn't have ID. It's a long story, but I started to drink beers, right? And my wife's over here mouthing, I need to shut up. Like, I'm sitting here telling you guys, I'm like pouring my life story out to you guys, and my wife's over here mouthing, you need to shut up. Why did you do it? Like, I can't stand that. Like, I probably am gonna have to go in the other room. But okay, like I can't say. I wish you would just like watch your little stupid movie and just leave me alone. Seriously, please. I'm sitting here with Boogaloo Scrimp, not bothering anyone. I wish I lived in a mansion. I'd go in the fucking the boiler room or whatever, the library, the drawing room, with Professor Plum. So anyways, I did a couple of Hebrew lessons. Fell in love with dude's family. Did my best to be a help around the house. They had a lot of live animals, ducks and chickens and things, fowl, which are definitely vectors for different kinds of nasties. And so when you have little kids running around with chicken shit all over your house, it is a bit of a health concern, right? When your kitchen is stacked with dishes that have been sitting there since, for like obviously months, with just disgust, like nastiness. Like, I'm not the type of person that is beyond getting in my fucking grubs and putting on some gloves and bleaching some shit. I'll do it, right? I'm not above that. You know what I mean? I'm good, baby. Thank you. And so that's what I did. I cleaned up the place as best as I could. I tried to get along with people. I did the Hebrew lessons. And when we signed the lease, it was kind of weird. Dude was like, it's just a regular standard lease, but you do need to read it because there are a couple of little things I added on my own, right? And like I just went through and signed it, fine, regular lease, whatever. And then he filmed us reading the whole thing verbatim for posterity. And like the last few paragraphs was some of the most bizarre, like weird things you would never expect to see in a lease. Just crazy town shit. I won't even try to remember what it was. But this shit was crazy. And I was like, fine, fuck it. I need a place to live. Fine, whatever. So during this time, I got a relationship going with a couple of the store owners local, because I would go to the store, get a beer, shoot the shit with the owner, maybe drink a couple of beers at the store and then come home. I blow off steam by like just getting the fuck out sometimes. I don't argue. I don't fight with people. Sometimes I just take a fucking walk. You know what I mean? I've learned in this life, maybe sometimes it's fun to scrap. Maybe sometimes it's fun to get your aggression out on people that pissed you off. But, it just ain't worth it, man. Unless you're one of the people that really loves jail, sometimes it's better just to walk away, right? And so I was upset about something. I don't even remember what it was. But so I drove to the store and I went to go get a beer. But I didn't have any money. And so I figured I would go to the Chic, because in Woodruff, I think it's an Exxon that's owned by a couple of sheiks. And these guys are really cool, fun to talk to, especially about things like the Mahabharata and things like that. They know about stuff that average people have never read. And so it is nice to have an expert on things like Mahabharata, because I don't speak the language, but I am interested in the philosophy, right? But so anyway, dude wasn't working. And so I told the guy that was working, I'm like, hey man, let Mike know that I got this beer and I'm going to pay for it next time I come in. He's like, no, you better not do that. And I'm like, better not do what? He's like, no, you're going to have to pay for that or you can't get that beer. And I'm like, really? I'm like, dude, well, then I'm just going to have to steal it. And he's like, well, you better not do that. So I was like, okay, fine. So I opened it, took a sip, walked out, sat in my car and waited about 15 minutes. The law didn't show up or nothing. So I left. Okay. About 2 weeks later, I was driving to the store for something unrelated. And long story short, I get pulled over, go to jail again. So this time I'm in jail. I don't even know for how long. I think it was like a week or two. I think it was 2 weeks. Yeah, I did. It was 2 weeks, and I got time served for driving under suspension. Okay. Now, a bunch of rumors got spread that I got a DUI and all this. Now, I have had DUIs, but I didn't get a DUI. What happened was so the guy that I stole the beer from that night he did call the law. They just didn't show up, I guess, for hours. He actually filed a police report because I stole a single, the tall, it's a can of Coors Gold it looks like a bottle. So I think it's a 16-ounce bottle can. That's what it was. And I told dude I was doing it. I told him I knew the store owner, and I told him I was going to pay for it. And if Mike would have been there, if the store owner would have been there, he definitely would have gave me credit, right? So that's why I went to jail the second time. Okay. And honestly, I probably could have pocketed the beer and stole it without dude ever knowing, but I'm not a thief. You know what I mean? I'm just not. Okay. But I did end up getting charges pressed and went to jail for driving under suspended. And I don't even know what happened with the charges of the petty larceny. I really don't even know, man. Well, when you know the store owner, I disagree. Also, I wasn't 100%, man. Like if you missed the beginning, I was going through severe withdrawal from methadone. Okay. And so one of the ways, and there was some stressors going on at the house, right? So instead of like fighting people or making a fool of myself, I just went to go get a beer from Mike's store, dude. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I guess technically it's a crime. But for the dude in the chat that just said I sound a bit entitled and that you shouldn't do that, of course you shouldn't do that. Everyone knows that. But, I think the way that I did it, the way that the guy reacted to it was way out of line and way uncalled for, okay? And, if you disagree with me, we can agree to disagree. Okay, JD Plants Rocher, understood. I'm not arguing that, okay? And I'll tell you what, that was the most expensive motherfucking Coors Banquet Gold bottle can I've ever had because I sat in jail for 2 weeks for that motherfucker, okay? So, no, Mike never did get his $2.38 or whatever, but the state took it out of my ass, okay? So the justice was served, if that's what you're really worried about, Jade, whatever your name was. And I'm not, like, I am kind of being a smart ass about it, but really, dude, that's the hill that's the bone you have to pick with the story. Okay, whatever. So this is like, we've gone way off track here, but so that's the context of what was going on. Now, when I got out of jail the second time, my wife took the car to the jail and got me out. I didn't get bonded out. I got time served on all that bullshit, right? So I think it was like 3 weeks. It was a minute, dude. It was a while in counting. It's no fun, right? So anyway, when we get home, I am not welcome to even set foot on the property. Now, mind you, never had done anything to anybody there but but try to be a friend, try to contribute however I could. I really I thought everything was cool, right? I thought everything was cool. But clearly it wasn't, because like these people now hated me, right? And years later, I found out that they were spreading a rumor that was a lie, that I had pulled a knife on dude's little 7-year-old daughter. So there was this huge rumor going around that I had pulled a knife on a 7-year-old girl, right? Which is, now, first of all, I will say that I have never pulled a knife on anyone in my life. Never. Let alone a 7-year-old girl, let alone that particular 7-year-old girl whom, like, I would definitely lay down my life for that kid if it came to that, right?
Was it a girl or was it a boy?
Without hesitation. No, they said that I pulled a knife on the little girl.
Shut up.
Okay. Now, so my wife's sitting right there. In retrospect, I had been whittling outside. I had borrowed the oldest son's knife and had been whittling a bow that I was going to give to dude, like a bow that, a bow and arrow bow. I was whittling that for dude because he let me use his knife. And I went inside looking for my phone, okay? And I suppose I did still have the knife in hand. And I thought that I had left my phone in the bathroom. And so I went to the bathroom and the door was shut, which was, that's whatever. I knocked. I didn't hear anything. So I tried to open the door and it was locked. I said, "Hey, is my phone in there?" "Huh? Is my phone in there?" And so I'm yelling it through the door. So like that's the only time I can think of where I had a knife and was yelling, but that had been weeks way before I had ever, gone to jail the second time. So again, the first time I went to jail was at Wood Springs, and the general manager of Wood Springs called the police and lied on me and filed a trespass warning on me to get me out of there that day, which I believe was retribution or revenge for me filing a Federal Trade Commission case against them, and they were being audited at that time, okay? And it was my fault for sure. So these motherfuckers hated me, so that's why I was in jail the first time. The second time, I explained the thing to y'all just now about, technically, yes, I stole a beer, but it was like, dude, I know the owner of the store. Mike would have definitely given me credit, and the guy that was working I'd never seen before, and he was being a dick. So you know what? Yeah, I'll steal that beer every time. I would do it again. I'm sorry. I learned my lesson. Yes, okay. And stealing is wrong, but like I'm telling you, if the same situation was to present itself to me right now, I would much rather take the charge for getting that cold beer and not fucking stomping somebody's ass over some bullshit, right? That's just the type of person I am. I am not violent, okay? Sure, I guess I could be, cajoled into violence, but I try to avoid violence at all costs, at every turn, okay? And that's just me, okay? So you can call it an excuse. You can call me an addict. It's true, okay? But not in the way most people think, right? So there's your little bit of background with Just Jack and them, okay? Now, after all this, Bob died, and Just Jack and his wife and his family and Karen B were at Bob's memorial in Spartanburg. Cammie and Zach Zabala picked me up in their car to take me to Spartanburg because I didn't want to drive and possibly catch another charge for driving under suspension, right? So we had a good time. It was all kind of bizarre. I had a good conversation with Just Jack. Everything seemed to be cool. Everything seemed to be still good on terms with his youngest son, whom I still consider like a very unique, special person and friend, even. And same thing goes for all these people. But, when people start spreading rumors and lies about me, and then, other friends take that shit and run with it. Like, honestly, I don't know what all was said about me or whatever, but whatever I did to anybody to like really piss you off, I'm sorry, man, and I'll admit that I'm a fucking asshole or whatever, but I'm definitely not an intentional. I'm not intentionally out there, making enemies with anybody. And so, if I can possibly extend an olive branch to, just Jack and his family, I'll definitely do that. But uh, during this time, Bob and Cammy are in Spartanburg, which is about 30 minutes the opposite direction from where I was at than Woodruff, right? So like Woodruff's 20 minutes this way and Spartanburg's 30 minutes that way, right? We're neighbors. And one of the main reasons that I'm even still in Greenville right now from Kansas was because Bob moved to Spartanburg, right? A few years back. And so while I may have ended up back in Greenville anyways, and I definitely tried to do it just in time for the Flattoberfest of 2022, I think. I damn sure tried to make it, and my car didn't allow it. It wasn't meant to be. But you know how much shit I got from Bob, basically calling me a liar and a drug addict because I didn't make it to that Flattoberfest. And luckily, I didn't die when the car tire fucking blew out in the mountains on the way there, like 100 miles away from where we were trying to get. No, didn't bother to ask me how I was or if everything was okay, but just basically accused me of all kinds of shit. But lo and behold, here I am. I'm still in Greenville, so it must not have been that much of a lie, because damn it, here I am, and I was there then, right? So like Bob would be super nice to me on the air, but in private and on text message, he was, I say borderline abusive and borderline, verbally and emotionally abusive, but it was like way beyond that. Like, I do pity Cammy in a way, because if he was doing this to me, I can only imagine how he must have treated her, right? Bob painted me out to be public enemy number one on Globebusters, from what I gather. I really don't know what all was said. But for anybody trying to say that I'm throwing Jeranism under the bus, or I'm jumping on the bandwagon because the AE model has been debunked, you know what, man? Just maybe you want to rewind for the last 8 years and watch my content, okay? Because I've never pushed an AE model. In fact, I've been the one saying that the AE projection isn't a model for years, man. And, we do definitely have at least some narrative or circumstantial evidence of counter-rotational heavenly luminaries in the South, okay? Now, whether that's true or not, or whether the causes of that, whatever the causes of that are, is sort of irrelevant, right? Because all we can really go by is what we can prove, okay? And, I know for a fact that Jeranism is, first of all, one of the smartest people I've ever met, okay? Definitely not a dummy, okay? Also, even though, I've only ever met Jeranism one time, in person, which was at that 2018 convention in Denver, over the course of a couple of days, we got to hang out a few times. But, I always considered him an actual, and sure, we make a lot of friends online. But, it's kind of hard to gauge a person, especially if you consider someone a friend, but you don't ever really hang out with them and you don't know what they're actually like in person. We sort of tend to paint pictures, paint pictures in our mind of who people are. And this is something that I realized a long time ago when I was doing, when I started doing freelance work, like working from home and having a bunch of different clients online that you never actually get to meet. but you definitely have to impress them because these are people that you never meet that are going to pay you money to do things for them, thousands of miles away. Okay. And so, but what I realize is that I sort of have pictures in my mind of who people are, like based on their voice and based on their personality and maybe based on a picture that you've seen of them. But that's all you got, right? Like without actually meeting someone, you don't really, like all you have is sort of your imagined version or like an avatar of that person, right? And so, um, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is we can definitely be misled into making friends with these caricatures. So like, let's just be careful about that, I guess, especially me. So I think probably, I gave Jeranism the benefit of the doubt. But at this point, let's talk about the Streisand effect. So hold on. So what is the Streisand effect? The Streisand effect comes from Barbara Streisand. That's the namesake. So like decades ago, I think it was Forbes magazine, but some publication printed an article and published a picture of Barbara Streisand's Malibu home in that magazine or whatever without her permission. And so, big deal, whatever. But Barbara Streisand sued the publication, basically accused them of being paparazzi, invading her privacy, opening her up to vectors of attack by shills or, crazies or whatever. And but basically, so her litigation, the fact that Barbara Streisand went and sued the publication, garnered so much more worldwide attention to that little story that nobody really paid attention to the point to where now it's in the face of millions of people exactly where she lives and exactly how she's afraid of people finding her house and like whatever she's afraid of. And so now like all the crazies in the world are definitely going to Malibu to visit Barbara Streisand, right? So like that's the Streisand effect. It's in trying to like put the cat back in the bag in a media sense that just blows up in your face, right? And so I think what we're seeing here, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it, is the Streisand effect of the shills of flat Earth. So this final experiment that was not final, nor was it an experiment, was basically a weapon fashioned against the truth, right? And one thing that you probably don't want to do during these days of revelation is fashion weapons against the truth, because inevitably and invariably, it's just going to be used against you, okay? So when I see people telling me that I should be really looking into the footage that they got in Antarctica for this final non-experiment and trying to figure out, first and foremost, is it even legitimate footage? And, I probably will do that one day. But I think at this point, it's important for us to, let's just get the story straight first. This was a media stunt charade, even if their footage is 100% true, right? So, there are definitely things the matter with this footage that I've seen, like the shadow angles changing. That's a big problem. The fact or the allegation that they redacted their GPS metadata in the footage. Then you have these green screen overlay glitches on their scales to do their experiments that aren't experiments. So like the definition of pseudoscience, right? Invoking the name and stolen valor of science, but actually just doing observations and measurements, right? So sure, sometimes science involves observations and measurements, right? but observations and measurements are not science, right? So the scientific method is something else entirely, isn't it? But so granted, yes, I agree, there are all sorts of things wrong with the footage, and maybe they faked every bit of it. I'm not going to claim to know because I wasn't there, okay? But what my point is even if it's true, even if all that footage is real and we have a 24-hour circling sun in Antarctica, it doesn't prove anything. And, for those people who were saying things like, maybe Whitsitt and Jeranism were being threatened and maybe, they're being coerced, then why weren't they blinking their eyes in Morse code for the last 2 years? Why were they cross-promoting and joining forces with known shills, and then going on big name broadcasts and acting exactly like shills, and then finally endeavoring and working very hard towards shiltastic ends, right? So if they were being threatened, was it for when did the threatening start, right? Because if you think that they started being threatened on the trip to Antarctica, no, you need to go back way before then, you guys. Now it is just over. I mean, honestly, and I know that the whole debacle with having the wrong Kristen on the other day totally discredits everything I will ever say. But maybe I will get Kristen Wolf, the actual Kristen Wolf, on here one day to verify this, because I do have some questions. But she was warning me about something very much like this happening. God, it was like 6-7 years ago, dude. And like, I kind of did see the edges of what she was saying, but I was probably definitely just blinded because I'm not going to think that way about my friends. Like, I gave my friends the benefit of the doubt. Harry Splatter, what's up, man? John TheMorgile, or who is what? I don't know. But here's the thing, you guys. Jeranism definitely knows better. Jaren isn't a crypto glober. Jaren knows the Earth's flat. He knows the proofs, and he also knows how inconsequential the apparent light show of the heavens is in terms of dictating what's going on down here. I mean, sure, you do have real world applications of the celestial luminaries, like celestial navigation. So there is definitely a real, tangible, objective connection and application for the heavens, right? But like in terms of trying to garner measurements of the ground by looking at the sky, that the way that this whole thing was handled was, I'm sure they're going to argue it was very sloppy and they never would have in a million years foreseen that they were walking right into a trap. Other than the fact that myself and many others have been basically telling them, dude, you're walking right into a trap. And basically Jaren's response is, oh, fuck those guys. They don't know what they're talking about. But, this isn't the Jeranism that I knew 4 years ago. So, was he really being threatened, or, maybe the threat involved not dumping piles of money at his feet, right? I would imagine that the threat probably entailed, they weren't threatening like his baby or his wife or none of that. The threat, in my humble opinion, for entertainment purposes only, my opinion is that, they probably threatened them not to dump piles of money at their feet. And, in that case, who can blame them, right? Because, flurfing damn sure ain't lucrative, as we've already discussed. When people were telling me to distance myself from the Globebusters way back when the that documentary came out where Bob was basically exposed as a shill, then at that point I had my reservations about Bob then. But the thing is, there's so much infighting and so much shill calling and so much tomato and poop throwing in this movement that really was the last thing we needed, you know, especially after the treatment that I got from the community when I exposed, you know, Matt Boylan as being a fraud and a liar and a soft porn star in publications geared towards children, you know. But I got disowned by a lot of people for that. And, you know, I loved Matt Boylan to death. And, you know, but it's becoming sort of a pattern here where I guess what am I like? So now I'm the asshole that goes around exposing well-meaning flat earthers just because I'm jealous or something. Dude, I kept my mouth shut about Bob and even Jaron more recently for a long time just to avoid the you know, the appearance of disunity, right? But for crying out loud, you know, what unity, right? People saying that I'm throwing Jaron and them under the bus. Dude, those guys threw me under the bus a long time ago. A long time ago. But I didn't say anything about it. I kept my mouth shut. And I even continued defending them in a lot of ways. But when you go on, you know, mainstream shows explaining how the 24-hour sun in the far south solstice doesn't work on a flat earth, and you go figure out what this means. Yeah. Wow. What it means is this whole thing was a charade. The earth is measured flat. There is no evidence for curvature. Even all the globetards admit that it's a fixed frame of reference. And you simply can't have a supersonic rotating sphere at the equator and hypersonic orbiting sphere in terms of orbiting around the sun, allegedly, and ultra ubersonic fucking orbital velocity of the galaxy, you know, the sun around the galaxy, and then the galaxy through space. Yeah, a fixed frame of reference doing all that, you're on crack, dude. Even the globetards admit, because you can't argue with the fact that the Earth is a fixed frame of reference, okay? And simply, you just cannot have a rotating, orbiting sphere flying in 5 directions at once along curvilinear paths operate and behave as a fixed frame of reference. It's not possible, okay? So, like, the globe is dead, y'all. We do not need to join forces with globetards and dive headfirst into false dichotomy media stunts in order to somehow find proof for flat Earth. This was a charade that is now having the Streisand effect on flat Earth. Because you see, this stunt was designed to push in the lamestream legacy media this narrative about how flat Earth has been debunked. But now you have millions and millions of people being funneled into the likes of me and Nathan Oakley, which, okay, maybe not millions and millions, but definitely hundreds and hundreds, okay? Which is like, the fucking internet's broke, dude. You might as well say it's millions and millions, right? Just as sort of an anecdotal thing, man. When I started doing flat Earth videos, which was really, I had a couple things before then that were just me trying to learn myself how to do video editing. But, you know, after I did the first few, like within 2015, 2016, within the first year, you know, I got up to about 10,000 subscribers and started earning on AdSense within the first 2 years. It got up to about $1,200 a month, right? And that was like December of 2016, I think, right? January of 2017, my revenue, AdSense revenue, went down to nothing and stayed that way until this very day. Like, yeah, sometimes it takes me 3 or 4 months to get $100, which is the threshold you have to hit to get paid through YouTube. Okay. I was stuck at 25,000 subscribers for like 6 years. Okay. And even still now, I mean, I'm all the way up to 38,000 subscribers, which is great. I mean, it's phenomenal. Never would have imagined it in a million years. But like, honestly, do you know how hard YouTube has had to work to keep channels like mine and many others from going like public? Dude, they pay a committee of NPCs millions of dollars a year to make sure that you guys don't find videos like mine and, you know, Flat Earth Asshole and Nathan Oakley and lots of others, Q and Fee, tons of them, right? And then you've got these Flat Earth Mafia gatekeepers who just get all the attention. They get all the big mainstream media interviews and shows and spots, right? And they just make absolute fucking fools of themselves on them, you know, whenever possible, right? Maybe not so much Jeranism on that one. I'm not saying Jeranism has made an absolute fool of himself publicly until this fucking thing here with Antarctica, right? Anyone who tries to argue that he was set up or he didn't see this coming, try that shit on someone else, man. Anyway, so what do y'all think, man? You know, am I being too harsh on these people? The likes of Dave Weiss and his speedboat in like one of the richest neighborhoods in Connecticut. Yeah, I'm sure he's having a very, very Merry Christmas. Let me check in on the comments, y'all. You ate 3 cookies. All right, Harry Splatter. Yeah, I mean, I love Christmas on Trace, man. It's not going to happen this year. I mean, there are 12 days of Christmas, so we'll definitely do something within that time. But like at the end of the month, we're broke. I lost all my work from home clients when Hurricane Helene hit back in September. FEMA mailed my check to my old address, and so that was in the mail for months. I did finally get that $750 check. But you know, that's gone before you get it. You know what I mean? But like, I know that they're going to reimburse me for the money I spent on hotels after Hurricane Helene. They got to. I sent them my receipts. They said they were going to do it. So we'll see. That's FEMA, right? They also said that they were going to send me some money because I moved after the hurricane. I only moved next door, but I moved, right? So they're supposed to send money for that too. FEMA is also supposed to send money because Mina spent 3 days, 3 days and 2 nights in the hospital because, you know, when Hurricane Helene hit, we were without power, water, and internet for like 6 weeks. And because she's on oxygen, she has to stay plugged in. And so they ended up throwing her out of the hospital. And so we had to get a hotel too. But so anyway, like, so I'm supposed to be getting a pile of money from FEMA, but, you know, thank God we gave all those billions of dollars to fucking Israel and Ukraine, right? Thank God Ukraine got all those another $20 billion. While fucking creepy cadaver Joe's on his way out, he's still signing checks over to Ukraine for 20 billion. But I can't even get my money back for hotels I spent. And yeah, no, it's not the federal government's responsibility to pay for my hotels, but damn it, I paid into FEMA for my whole life. So have you. This is money that I'm due, bro. And so like they mailed the first $750 check to my old address that I haven't lived at in over a year. And that check was returned to FEMA October the 3rd. Okay. I was on the phone with FEMA all month during October and November. They didn't know what happened to that check. They were basically dry accusing me of lying, of basically having that check and not wanting to give it back to them. And so they were like holding off on direct depositing me my $750, right? But no, come to find out, finally it came out in their research, whatever that means, because you have to research to figure out what the fuck's going on in your computer, right? In their research, they found out that they had that check returned from my old address since October 3rd, or maybe it was October 8th. I think it was October 8th is what it was. But yeah, so not going to be much Christmas here. If you do want to support the channel, there's ways to do that. Patreon, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, it's all TheMorgile. I'll try to put links in the description. You just have to give me a minute. But yeah, man, I do celebrate Christmas, but it's going to have to probably be, I think I think she gets paid on the 30th. I have some money coming after the 1st at some point. I don't know when. I did not hit AdSense threshold this month, so I don't even get my $100 from YouTube this month. It's pretty bad. Um, because we were without internet for 6 weeks, I did lose all my work from home clients. And I have put in some bids, but have you ever tried to bid on contracts during the holidays? It's not exactly the best time to do it. It's probably going to be after the first before I have any new contracts, right? My car is still broken down. It's still in the shop. So it's not like I can just, drive to the labor hall and go, get a work ticket and then drive to the job site and then back to the labor hall and then back home. I can't do any of that. So this is all I got right here. And so, no, I'm not e-begging. I think we're going to be fine. But if anybody who does want to help and you've been blessed, then, cash at me, $ TheMorgile, capital T, capital M, paypal.me/TheMorgile, Venmo.com/TheMorgile, or if you want to do a recurring monthly contribution on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, patreon.com/TheMorgile. More to come, you guys. I'm going to continue putting out content this week because honestly, it is just another day to me. I mean, I do appreciate, respect, and love Yeshua, but I think he was probably born in the spring, honestly. But hey, man, give each other presents, love your families, decorate your trees. I may do something like that. I love Christmas, man. I fucking love it. I may do something like that after we get some money. So I'll let y'all know. Y'all be good, stay blessed, and more to come. I never did. Well, I guess I did ask y'all what y'all thought in the chat, and I just didn't see. Oh, that's what's up, Rune Dragon. I appreciate you, man. That's God bless you. That's very kind of you. Anybody that if you wanna get up with me, man, social media is hit or miss. Sea Lightning 300 miles, dude. I've been trying to get up with you. Can you link up with me, man? If you see this, and if anybody knows how to link up with Sea Lightning 300 miles, let him know. I see him in the chats all the time, and I'll by the time I type out, at Sea Lightning 300 miles and get that to work, and then type the message, I guess he's gone. But anyway, anybody that wants to get in touch with me, but I don't seem to be responding to socials, just send me a text on my phone. Okay? If you don't text me, if you just call me, I probably won't answer it because I get so many telemarketing calls. I wonder why. But just send me a text. It's 864-315-7892. And if you want to get up with me, do that. That's the best way to do it. All right, one love, you guys. Be good, and I will... Jesus born, Feast of Tabernacles, September 29th, October 2nd, approximately. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen cases made... we're not going to get into all that right now, but honestly, it doesn't matter to me when Yeshua was born. I still love him and still appreciate everything that he's done for us. All right, you guys, be good. We will see y'all very soon. Bye.